5 years ago, Stephen King and George Romero, two masters of the macabre, created their hallmark of horror, Creepshow. Many would argue that nothing of significance has happened since. Until now.
Chief wouldn't have.
Maybe you don't get out much.
Oh, this is crazy. This is totally crazy.
Maybe you're always running late.
I gotta
go. Or maybe you just have other things on your mind.
They gotta make me a movie star.
But if you only make it to one scary film all year, make it one you remember all year long. Creepshow 2.
Welcome back to the 31 Days of Spooks. My name is Dylan Goebel, and today we're talking about Creepshow 2, released in 1987. This is the sequel to Creepshow, which was directed by George A. Romero, and this film is directed by Michael Gornick, but it was written by George A. Romero. Yeah. So what do I think of Creepshow 2? Well, let's go back to what I think about the first movie. The first movie, I think, is a masterpiece. I really adore the first one. It's a very unique horror anthology that's a ton of fun to watch. Creepshow 2 is entertaining for the most part. It's not a great movie by any means. It's a very, very okay movie. None of the stories are even near as good as the stories in the first film. The writing isn't quite as good. The scares aren't quite as creative. Like, this movie in general is just nowhere near as creative as the first film. This film is more like a very standard 80s horror film. And I mean, usually 80s horror films are like very fun. This movie's only fun sometimes. This is not one of the great 80s horror films, but I do enjoy it. It's not something I'll watch every Halloween like the first Creepshow, but let's just talk about Creepshow 2. Everything that I think about it. My favorite story in this film, I would say, is The Raft. Yeah, The Raft is my favorite one. It's just these these group of college kids, like, they're on this raft and there's like this big fucking man-eating blob thing that's after them. The practical gore effects in that scene are really good. Really fucking good. It's also the most suspense-filled out of all three stories. This movie only has 3, not 5 stories. The first story, Old Chief Woodenhead, that's the second best. Yeah, it takes a long fucking time for that story to like really get anywhere. It's mostly just, okay, so you got this owner of this little shop and his wife. First they're talking to like this old First Nations chief. And they are given these very valuable jewelry thing. I believe it's jewelry from what I remember. And he makes a promise of eventually. It's a very, very long conversation scene, and it's not very good dialogue, by the way. And it takes a long time. And then all of a sudden one of that chief's relatives comes along. And then he's with these 2 other guys, and they're robbing the fucking place, and they want that fucking jewelry, and then all of a sudden, like, maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, this relative of this chief fucking kills these guys, like this couple, and then all of a sudden later on it just turns into a slasher movie. And yeah, the slasher movie part is where it finally fucking gets interesting. Like, that's like, really, it took that fucking long to full of like uninteresting bullshit to fucking get to the slasher movie stuff. Like, come on. But yeah, it's the second best. The third story, what is it called again? The Hitchhiker. That's what it's called. It is the most forgettable out of the fucking three stories. It's just basically this chick is having an affair, and all of a sudden she fucking hits this guy on the road. She fucking gets away, and then all of a sudden his body just keeps stalking her and shit, trying to ask for a ride and all that. And it's basically just her just driving away from this fucking guy for basically the rest of the story. Yeah, like the stories, like there's some fun to be had in all three, but it's just the first one is just paced so fucking bad. The second story is by far the best one. I don't really have many problems with the second story. And then the third story, well, it can be fun, but it's just very forgettable. Creepshow 2 is just a very empty film compared to the first film. It just feels very empty. It's very fun at times. There's some nice effects. It has that 80s cheese when it wants to. But overall, Creepshow 2 is just not as good as the first film. It's nowhere near as unique. It's nowhere near as creative. And yeah, it's all around just a meh kind of movie. I'm going to give Creepshow 2 a C+. So anyways, look forward to my next review coming tomorrow, which will be the David Lynch classic Eraserhead. Hell yeah, look forward to that. Anyway, see you later.